Okay. So thank you everyone for joining us for the third part of our Sustainable Buildings for All webinar series. In this particular webinar, we will be focusing on third-party certifications. So we're very, very excited to be joined today by Aubrey Christensen with the International Living Future Institute, Jennifer Gumby with the U.S. Green Building Council, and Rebecca Heilig with Earth Advantage. So huge thank you to our panelists today, and we're looking forward to learning from you. Ante and I are going to do just a little bit of intro. So just for folks on the call, I am Amanda Ingmeyer with the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality. I focus on co-leading our built environment program, and I'm an architect and senior policy analyst with the agency. Ante, would you like to do a quick intro as well?
Sure. My name is Ante Vullen, and I'm a sustainability consultant at GlueMac, a sustainable engineering firm. I'm based out of Portland, and Amanda and I have been working on some of these ideas for a number of years as part of Portland's Living Building Challenge Collaborative, and that effort has grown to include even more people, which Amanda will be able to tell you about in a second.
Great. Thanks, Ante. So this is the Sustainable Buildings for All, or SB4A incentive framework. It was published earlier this year with a group of sustainability and equity experts and advocates who really wanted to focus on how we might find some additional tools and strategies to help incentivize more of these projects coming onto the market in Oregon. And so in just a moment here, I will drop the link to the webpage in the chat, and note that you can get the framework report as well as the summary documents that you see on the screen here at this webpage. And additionally, we are in the process of getting the recordings from previous webinars posted there. Right now, part 1 is available, and I am hoping to get part 2 up very soon, as well as part 3 following this. So with that, I also just want to acknowledge the many, many people who helped to bring this framework to life. It took a lot of input from a lot of really awesome folks who dedicated their time. So thank you to all of them. And with that, I will hand it over to Ante.
Thanks, Amanda. So if you're a regular viewer of these webinars, we have talked about the origin of this policy idea and the structure of it, of these incentives that could be used to incentivize green building. We've also talked to two people who have implemented these programs in Seattle, Washington, or implemented similar programs in Arlington County, Virginia, and Seattle, Washington. And today we want to get a little bit more into third-party certifications and the value that they provide by this industry-developed framework. So we go to the next slide, please. The main idea with these third-party certifications is that we are not reinventing the wheel. We are using an existing framework of which there provides a lot of flexibility to users about how they can meet certain green building goals, while also including a level of third-party review to ensure that people and builders are doing what they say they are going to do. Inspired by Seattle's program, we really like the idea of taking the burden off of local governments to have to enforce what is happening with building design, something that may not be their particular area of expertise. So that's a really strong reason why we believe in third-party certifications. And then in addition to that, shifting the burden away from the local government, it also couches these requirements in terms that are familiar to building industry professionals and are increasingly, essentially the market is able to meet these standards. There's lots of evidence. And so we like that versus having to develop something totally new. And Amanda, if you could go to the next slide. We looked at a lot of rating systems when we were originally developing this. So we were inspired by the city of Seattle's programs that were really reliant on the Living Building Challenge and LEED, but there are other rating systems that are out there, some of which are newer than when the city of Seattle began their program. And for us, in our first webinar, we really talked about these 3 key pillars that are at left here of climate action, equity and racial justice, and health. And so we looked at these leading rating systems. I won't read them all off, but if they are all good reading for follow-up. And what we wanted to include in this rating system were ones that did a good job of meeting these standards. And we're very lucky to have representatives from the leading rating systems here today, and they'll tell you a lot more about how they see their rating systems intersecting with this. But it is not random that we have USGBC, ILFI, and Earth Advantage represented here today. They're great foundational rating systems that align with the kind of goals that we really want to support through these kinds of policies. And so with that, the last thing I want to make very, very clear before I turn it over to these experts is that in our mind, when we're proposing a policy like Sustainable Buildings for All, is that it's a balance of this third-party organization and government. And we want to make sure everyone, especially the end users, starts to understand that the third-party certification through their processes and procedures that they've developed are able to provide that verification of performance and certification. And then the very key distinction is that the government is ultimately responsible for any incentive programs that are offered. A lesson learned is that we want to make that distinction clear. It is not USGBC giving away anything to a developer. It is, your local city or county, and vice versa. That the county is being clear that they are not judging whether your building is green. They're relying on other professional judgment. So with that distinction, I'm very excited to turn it over to Rebecca to kick us off today.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca Heilig. I'm the Director of Carbon-Free Construction at Earth Advantage, and I'm going to give you a high-level overview of the Earth Advantage program. Next slide, please. So Earth Advantage is a nonprofit organization based out of Portland, Oregon. The Earth Advantage certification was originally developed by PGE, Portland General Electric, in the 90s. And at that time, the program was called EarthSmart. EarthSmart eventually broke off from PGE into its own organization called Earth Advantage, which provides peripheral services around green building. So to be clear, Earth Advantage is both the name of the certification program and the nonprofit organization that supports it. Our mission is to help create an informed and humane residential workplace, and we do this through various initiatives. Next slide, please. First is home data. We've developed and manage a website called greenbuildingregistry.com, and this is where we capture data from across the country that receive asset ratings like a home energy score or HERS, as well as certifications like LEED, Living Building, and Earth Advantage. Our workforce training and education department offers trainings for builders, real estate brokers, ADU specialists, and our workforce development is for young people looking to break into the building industry. Our climate action department is currently working with a PSEF grant to source 15,000 air conditioners to be installed in homes throughout the greater Portland area in high-risk populations. And lastly, our Earth Advantage home and building certification program, which I will talk about today. Next slide, please. So because Earth Advantage was originally developed by PGE, it began as and continues to be an Oregon-centric program based off the Oregon building codes. That said, it can be adapted to other state building codes, and we have plans to do so in the future. Earth Advantage certifies homes and whole buildings. It does not certify systems, components, or products. Earth Advantage has carved out two slightly different programs to meet the specific needs of single and multifamily buildings. And we identify single versus multifamily based on the Oregon code definition. So single family is defined as either detached homes or homes with or buildings with a shared wall only. So duplex, triplex, townhomes, ADUs, buildings like that. Multifamily buildings, which have no height limit, are stacked, meaning the horizontal floor ceiling surface is shared. This includes multifamily residential, dormitories, assisted living, skilled nursing facilities, continued care, projects like that, and all projects can be affordable or market rate. Next slide, please. So our program is broken down into 5 pillars: land, health, materials, water, and energy. The land pillar focuses on land preservation, encouraging high density infill type projects. Production home developments on the outskirts of high density areas do participate in our program, but compliance with this pillar is much more challenging for those types of projects. The health pillar focuses on indoor air quality using non-toxic finishes, moisture management, and ventilation strategies. The materials pillar focuses on sustainable harvesting and supply chain, as well as low embodied carbon materials. The water pillar focuses on water efficiency and conservation. The energy pillar focuses on energy efficiency, and our multifamily versus single family targets are a little bit different. In our single family program, our framework allows for a maximum MMBTU, so X million per BTUs per number of bedrooms. And that maximum will change depending on the climate. So as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner in the example, Redmond, which is a harsher climate than Ashland, allows for a higher energy target. And we do this to encourage the design of small homes. Smaller homes use less energy. It is much harder, if not impossible, for very large homes to comply with our program at all. On average, programs in our lowest tier of certification perform at about 17% above code. In-house, we use REM-rate software, but Ecotrope and other nationally approved residential energy modeling software would be allowed. Our multifamily buildings show a minimum of 10% above code for our lowest tier, 15% above code for our middle tier, and then 20% for our highest tier. And we use a DOE2 equivalent software called IESVE. IES is a very thorough software program designed specifically for multifamily and commercial buildings. Next slide, please. So compliance is based on a prescriptive point system, measures award points, and in both the multifamily and single family program, there's over 150 measures to choose from. Some measures are mutually exclusive, so if you take one, you're not eligible for another. There are prerequisite and optional measures. Prerequisite measures mean they are mandatory, you must do them, and there are no points awarded for those measures. This includes erosion control, waste management, low VOC paints. While some of those measures you will also see appear in code, Earth Advantage requires a higher standard than what we see in code, always guiding our clients to best practice. Optional measures award points, and sometimes measures award points in multiple pillars. So for example, the stormwater management measure, where you must keep all of your stormwater on site away from city drains, awards points in both the water and land pillars. And it's important to note that some of the measures that are optional in our standard certification program do become mandatory for SB 4A compliance. Next slide, please. So in both the single family and multifamily programs, you're required a minimum number of points in each pillar to qualify for compliance. So in single family, you must meet 15 points in energy, 10 in land, 10 in health, 15 in materials, and 10 in water. The minimum number of points you need to qualify is 60, so 60 to 79 points is silver, 80 to 99 points is gold, and 100 plus points is platinum certification. For our multifamily program, you must meet a minimum of 10 points in energy, 15 in health, 15 in land, 20 in materials, and 10 in water. So the minimum number of points you need to qualify is 70, so 70 to 89 points is silver, 90 to 119 is gold, and 120 plus is platinum. Next slide, please. So the process is basically registration, verification, certification. So unlike similar programs, we provide all of the consulting and verification in-house at Earth Advantage. We do have 2 independent verifiers who are individuals providing the consulting and on-site verification that are not employed by Earth Advantage. One is located in Ashland, and the other one is located here in Portland, and that individual specifically helps with the multifamily projects. But for the most part, project teams will work solely with Earth Advantage employees. So for registration, your team signs an agreement with Earth Advantage. You get assigned a green building consultant, depending on where your product is and what type of project it is. And then the green building consultant will work with you throughout the duration of the project, starting with a checklist review to review the target number of points and a level of certification, and also facilitate a preliminary energy model. Then there are the on-site verifications. In the single family program, there are 2 on-site verifications, one at pre-drywall, where we're looking at items, mostly air barrier, air sealing, items that you can't see once the drywall goes up. And then a final inspection at the end of the build, where we conduct a series of energy testing, including a blower door, ventilation testing, and in some cases, a duct test. In the multifamily program, there are 5 on-site inspections, 3 before drywall, 1 right after drywall, and then 1 again at final. And that final inspection again includes the duct test of blower door and ventilation testing. Once all the testing is completed, energy model is finalized with the actual test data from the field. For measures that can't be verified visually or by testing, project teams are required to submit an accountability form. An accountability form is signed off by a professional attesting that the measure has successfully been completed. And then lastly, certification. So after all passing inspections, certification is awarded. We will leave a sticker on the electrical panel. We will send the project team the Earth Advantage certificates, digital and or hard copy, whichever they prefer. And then we also add the home or building to the Green Building Registry. And then for our multifamily projects, we'll also provide a qualification letter that can be sent to interested parties. Mainly those interested parties are funding sources. Next slide, please. So beyond our platinum level certification, a project can also pursue Zero Energy Ready, Zero Energy, or Zero Energy Plus certification. Now, our definition of zero energy is a home or building that produces as much energy as it needs over the course of a year. So in a Zero Energy Ready project, the project team is required to engage a solar contractor and design a photovoltaic system specifically for that home or building that meets our definition of zero energy. Project teams must submit those photovoltaic plans to comply with Zero Energy Ready. They must include a solar area, orientation from true north, capacity, etc. But the system does not need to be installed at the time of final inspection. A Zero Energy certified project must provide all of the plans as required in the Zero Energy Ready program. However, that system must actually be installed at the time of final inspection. For single family, you must meet platinum certification first before pursuing the zero energy, and not all of the energy must be generated on site, either on the roof or a ground mount. In multifamily, you must meet a minimum of 25% above code to meet the platinum level certification. However, the system can be on site or off site. Our multifamily program also allows a Zero Energy Plus, meaning the building is net positive, meaning it's providing more energy than the building actually needs. In the case of projects pursuing Zero Energy Plus, certification is awarded 1 year after those final inspections to verify that the system is performing as planned. Next slide, please. So for more information about our program, about our nonprofit organization, you can check out earthadvantage.org to learn more about our certification program. You can look at earthadvantagehomes.org. And lastly, if you haven't already, you can check out the Green Building Registry. All the homes in Portland have to have a home energy score, so very likely if you type in your address, you will see it on there. And if you have a project team looking to pursue Earth Advantage certification, I am the director and I can answer some high-level questions, but I have a team of individuals. Eric Foley manages all of our multifamily projects throughout the state. Mark Krazier manages the single family in the Portland area, Matt Douglas in the Bend area, and then Fred Gant, who is one of our independent verifiers. He is in Ashland. And that is all I have. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rebecca, and we will turn it over to Jennifer.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all having us here today. I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about USGBC, LEED, and LEED Zero, as well as share a handful of resources with you so that you have the opportunity to learn more. I'll repeat it again at the end with my email address, but we are always here to answer questions. So don't hesitate to reach out in the future if you'd like more information on anything I shared, or you just weren't listening and you want me to repeat what I did share with you today. Next slide. So I won't go into too many details about USGBC in general. I'll assume that you guys know who we are. But I did want to give you a little bit of an overview before diving a little bit more into some specifics of LEED and LEED Zero. So if you're new to USGBC, reach out. I'll give you the full 1 hour spiel, but know that USGBC believes in better buildings. We believe it leads to better lives and that everyone deserves a better building. Next slide. So USGBC has many ways that we help the community towards that shared goal of better buildings. Our community is diverse. We have a wide range of real estate professionals, including real estate lenders, the design professional contingent from engineers, architects, interior designers. We have developers, we have contractors. The list is up there on the screen, but we are all working together to build those healthy, efficient, and equitable buildings and communities, and we want to build them for everyone. On the next slide, I want to share a few more specifics about what that means. So how USGBC accomplishes that broad goal. One of our first steps is membership, available to both organizations and individuals. Being a member not only shows your support for the mission of USGBC and helps support our work, it provides you with a wide range of direct benefits. That includes access to additional learning platforms, exclusive member events, discounts on your LEED registrations and certifications, conference registrations, and credentialing access, and more. Next slide. We're probably most known outside of LEED for our educational offerings, a wide range of written as well as presented, from level 101 to expert, some that are purely informative, others that are targeting your credentialing support. One popular example is USGBC's education platform, capital E, capital P education platform, which provides the most up-to-date green education courses for today's market. These online courses aim to inspire you, to help you prepare for any career changes in green building, to study for your LEED Green Associate or LEED AP exams, to fulfill continuing education requirements, and many other features. Next slide. Supporting our education events are our events. This includes networking events, which are very popular, so we can have peer-to-peer connections, as well as gain educational opportunities. Our green tours, we are just now returning to in-person events and trying to return to our regular green tours, as they were very popular. I'll share a little bit more later on about our events and where you can find out more, but they cover the gamut from virtual to live, education, networking, and more. Then next slide, I'd be remiss if I didn't, of course, touch on our advocacy and policy work. This is the team that I work on with USGBC, helping state and local governments across the country fulfill their green building policy goals. Wherever we work, we're backed by the goals of the community we're working in, and we are committed to using the latest research and best practices. Our advocacy team, combined with a network of volunteers and partners, we help drive the development of green buildings and communities. We work at all levels of government, federal, state, and local, providing the technical assistance and policy guidance that you may need. USGBC and our volunteers support advocacy campaigns. We provide testimony and written comments. We frequently meet with policy makers, both electeds and staff, just to be a resource however we are needed. We spend a significant amount of time crafting articles and resources so that when you want to know more, you can look into that as well. And I'll share those links at the end of the slide. But overall, we're just working every day to advance green buildings through policy. Next slide. Another favorite of USGBC's work is our work to advance green schools. USGBC Center for Green Schools is the global leader for advancing green schools and providing the resources needed to create sustainable, healthy, resilient, and equitable learning environments. Next slide. We really go out with the mantra of where we learn matters. It goes beyond just kids, though you would hope that be a motivator enough. But nationwide in America, 1 in 6 people set foot in a school every day. That's 1 in 6 children and adults. And more than 46% of US public schools have an environmental condition that contribute to poor indoor environmental quality. So that is a substantial amount of our residents, especially children across the country, that need some additional green building help. Next slide. And then credentialing. A LEED credentialing note of proficiency in today's sustainable design, construction, and operations standards. A LEED credential can help advance a career, showcase your knowledge, experience, and credibility in the green building marketplace. Next slide. So that's enough about USGBC and a range of the resources we have to provide you with the most current information to help you transform the built environment. I want to talk a little bit more about our most well-known tool, LEED. LEED is the leading program for green buildings and communities worldwide. It's available for virtually all building, community, and home project types. LEED provides a framework to apply building design, construction, and operation standards to holistically create healthy, highly efficient, and cost-saving green buildings. LEED certified spaces save money for families, for businesses, and taxpayers. They reduce carbon emissions and contribute to a healthier environment for that larger community. Next slide. Those benefits to health, to the bottom line, to carbon emissions, They are just part of an incredible ROI that one receives for a relatively small investment. LEED works by enhancing that triple bottom line, helping manage operations and creating a more sustainable and resource efficient built environment. Thank you for that ROI, return on investment. You can see there one of our testimonials for what that small investment that's required for that large upfront cost. Excuse me, large return on investment for a small upfront cost. Next slide. And as I started sharing on that prior slide, LEED provides a framework to create a healthy, highly efficient, and cost-saving green buildings. So I want to spend some time now kind of going into the details of what that framework is, what LEED comprises. As I go through that, keep in mind that there is LEED for virtually every project type. Next slide. So the different LEED rating systems, they cover a range from LEED for building design and construction, B, D, and C, which does include residential design and construction. We have LEED for interior design and construction, the ID plus D, our LEED for building operations and maintenance, otherwise known as existing buildings or O&M, LEED for neighborhood development, ND, as well as our LEED for cities and communities. Within each of these rating systems, there are different solutions to fit various project types and scopes. If you're curious in finding out more, I'll talk at the end about LEED coaches, but you can also get the full scorecard. We make it public and readily available, where you can see all the different building types and sectors and ways that LEED is available to help advance a better buildings. These rating systems work at all phases of a building as well, from development and new construction to existing buildings. And as I said, all building sectors, a number of which are listed up there, from homes and banks and factories, neighborhoods, college campuses, corporate headquarters. We try to meet every building where they are in their life cycle to help create better buildings for all. Next slide. So how are these rating systems structured? The LEED rating system is made up of prerequisites and credits. Prerequisites are required elements or green building strategies that must be included in any LEED certified project. For example, this means all LEED certified projects have met minimum construction activity pollution prevention standards, minimum levels of indoor and outdoor water use reduction. They store and collect recyclables, and they have addressed environmental, tobacco, smoke control, just to name a few. The credits portion are optional elements that projects can pursue to gain points towards that LEED certification. The organization of the prerequisites and credits varies slightly depending on the building type and associated rating system, but it's generally organized into the broad categories you see on the screen. That is what provides that holistic framework approach to LEED certification. We're addressing integrated process, location, sustainable sites, water, energy, materials and resources, and indoor environmental quality, while accounting for innovation and a host of localized opportunities. Next slide. So how a project achieves LEED certification? Well, achieving LEED requires satisfying all of those prerequisites and then earning points for various green building strategies across several categories, the ones outlined on that prior slide. We have reference guides designed to help a project team or an interested individual, which explains the credit criteria, describes the benefits of complying with each credit, and suggests approaches to achieving credit compliance. These guides are available to help anyone looking to advance green building strategies and hopefully pursue LEED certification. I've got the ranges of LEED certification up on the screen as far as how many points one needs to achieve various thresholds. But unless you have a particular project in mind, that might be getting a little bit too into the weeds. So I will skip on to the next slide. Importantly, LEED's been around for more than 2 decades, providing the framework for high performance buildings and spaces. We've reduced greenhouse gas emissions through these strategies, impacting land, energy, transportation, water, waste, and materials. We're always working to strengthen LEED, ensuring it is that leadership standard for green building design and construction, operations, and performance, that it raises the bar on building standards to address energy efficiency, water conservation, site selection, materials, daylighting, and waste reduction. So the next version of LEED will be a step in that process. If you're familiar with LEED, you're probably current on our transition to LEED 4.1, but that next version of LEED we'll hopefully share more about later this year and talk a lot about next year. But it will support the built environment's alignment with the targets outlined in the Paris Agreement and address critical imperatives, including equity, health, biodiversity, and resilience. Next slide. So part of that work to continuously strengthen LEED and ensure that the market has the tools they need, USGBC developed LEED Zero, a complement to LEED that verifies the achievement of net zero goals in existing buildings. LEED Zero projects must be LEED certified under B, D, and C or O&M rating systems, so you know you're getting that holistic approach to better buildings in your net zero project. You can't buy offsets and get yourself LEED Zero. You have to have a holistic green building and then can show how you further reduced and address through offsets your net zero status. On the next slide, you'll see that LEED Zero is available in LEED Zero carbon, energy, water, and waste. You can get one of the four, you can get multiple. We have several projects that have achieved all four. LEED Zero carbon recognizes net zero carbon emissions from energy consumption through carbon emissions avoided or offset over a period of 12 months. LEED Zero energy recognizes source energy use balance of zero over a period of 12 months. LEED Zero water recognizes potable water use balance of zero over 12 months. And LEED Zero waste recognizes buildings that achieve the true certification at the platinum level. While all of these require data from 12 months of operations, we are working on a tool that is a designed to be net zero certification to verify and reward those who intend to be net zero. LEED strongly encourages projects to recertify every 3 years. LEED Zero requires that certification every 3 years. The intent that building to be net zero certification will also be a 3-year recertification cycle. Next slide. As LEED Zero builds on a building's LEED certification, that LEED Zero step is thorough, but not an onerous process. One registers by sending a simple email, and there is no registration fee. There is a certification fee, but nothing to register and get access to the various tools. And then you provide your documentation through shared performance data. That true platinum certification if you're going for zero waste, or 12 months performance data through a LEED online portal we have if you're going for LEED Zero carbon, water, or energy. And then you get the confirmation your application is approved after the review is complete. That oversimplifies the process a little bit, but I just want to show that it is not onerous because it is building on that 20+ year history of LEED and our commitment to transparency in verification and certification. If you want the details, we do have a LEED Zero program guide, and I'll make sure you guys have access to this link after the presentation. Next slide. And if you want to continue learning more about USGBC, about LEED Zero, about green buildings in general, we tried to build out our website to include information to help you wherever you are in your journey, excuse me. So the top 3 locations on our website that I usually steer people to who are wanting to have more information is our resources, articles, and events, where I kind of circled that red items on the upper right. You can see on the upper left that we also have links to everything you may need from LEED, credentialing, education, and membership. If you're looking for even more information, under that directory drop down, we have a, what is it called? Projects, where you can search and toggle through a menu on the left and find LEED projects that are near you. You can find the various LEED Zero projects throughout the country. There's all sorts of information, but those links, resources, directory down to events and articles are your top 3 go-to USGBC resources. On the next page, I want to share with you just a couple of examples of the types of information we have available. In your upper left hand, I took a quick screenshot of some of the courses and events that we have. We've got options for live as well as online, many free events, though we do have some events that require a fee, many that are CEU available. But you can take a look at all courses, all events. You can look at ones that are near you. You can look at just the ones that are free. We also post many articles on our website trying to help folks stay current on the ever-changing green building industry. About 12 to 20 articles a week are posted. We also have resources, reports, case studies, policy briefs, trying to, again, provide you with a more in-depth view of some of that latest and greatest. And on the next slide, it may be saving the best for last, but the resource that probably isn't as well known, but incredibly useful are our LEED coaches. LEED Coach was developed to provide project teams with a personal guide who can lead you through that LEED process and serve as a dedicated point of contact if you have any questions along the way. The LEED Coach is staffed by experienced professionals from across several fields within the building industry, and the goal is to provide a better user experience. So if you need assistance from USGBC, either before or after you register a project, we're here to help. And then you have a single point person to answer your questions, no matter how many questions you have before, during, and after your project. There is a great one-pager that further summarizes LEED Coach that I will put into the chat and make sure you have during the follow-up later. But LEED Coaches can help you pick the right rating system. They've got certification Q&A, which reference standards you use to demonstrate compliance with different credits, recommendations on the process for demonstrating those, the documentation efficiencies if you're using dual rating systems. The list goes on and on. They are there to be your point of assistance. Next slide. And with that, I just want to make sure you have my email address. I will again make sure that gets sent out to you. But if you have any questions, my role is within green building policy. But if I can't answer your LEED or USGBC or green building questions, I've got staff that I can connect you with. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Jennifer. I'm going to switch slides here and we will hand over to Aubrey.
Hi, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining today. My name is Aubrey Christensen, and I am the Senior Manager of Innovation at the International Living Future Institute, and I'm based out of Hawaii. Today, I'll be giving you an overview of the International Living Future Institute, which I'll refer to as ILFI, who we are, our programs, where we're headed as an organization, and how you all can connect with us and learn more. So ILFI's mission is to lead the transformation towards a society that is socially just, culturally rich, and ecologically restorative. The International Living Future Institute's programs are holistic. They're also aimed at the level of ambition that's in line with the urgency of climate change and the other challenges we face. We have 4 building certifications, 1 product certification, 2 transparency labels. These are similar to nutrition labels if you're not familiar with that on like food. And those are Declare, our product ingredient transparency label, and Just, our organizational equity label. And we also have a Living Future accreditation. We develop programs that try to meet the urgency and ambition of the moment. And in examples around the world and across the country, we've shown that these goals are possible to meet today. Next slide. We have projects and labels in over 30 countries around the world. ILFI's impact around the world as of early May 2022 is shown here. Just note that these numbers have increased, which is exciting. We now have 173 certified buildings, 170 plus Just organizations, over 1,000 Declare labels, 60 living product certifications, and over 600 projects pursuing ILFI certification. And you can see current stats, project locations, and access project case studies on our brand new interactive map, which was just launched earlier this month. Please note that the new map does not include all of our projects yet, but we're hoping to get as many up on the map as possible. It's a really cool tool. You can actually go zoom in on Google Earth and be able to see where our different certified projects are located. So I encourage you to check it out. Next slide, please. So before jumping into building certifications, I'm going to quickly introduce you to our Just program. As Sustainable Buildings for All puts a special emphasis on equity and justice in the built environment. Just is our social justice and equity label. Next slide. So Just is a transparency tool for representing organizational commitments to social equity to improve and move the needle on equity related to race, pay, gender, health, and more. Just labels are publicly accessible on our online database. We recognize that the pathway to a truly just organization is a process. It requires continuous evaluation and improvement. So you can see here ILFI's Just label, which was just updated in early 2022. You can see we're excelling in some areas, but have work to do in other areas, and that we're committed to continuously improving. And that's really one of the great things about Just is it's not necessarily saying that you have to be at 100% when you get your label, but it's recognizing that it's a process and it helps you kind of figure out where you have room to grow and where your strengths are. So Just has also been integrated into the Living Building Challenge, as well as other certifications programs such as WELL and LEED. And I'll touch briefly on how Just is integrated into our Living Building Challenge in a little bit. Next slide, please. So now on to our building certifications. ILFI's programs are visionary and holistic and inclusive tools for transformative design. All projects pursuing Living, Petal, or Core certification must comply with the requirements of all 10 of the core imperatives. And I'll kind of talk through that a little bit. And all of our certifications from Zero Carbon all the way to Living Building Challenge are an all or nothing certification. So you don't get to pick and choose which imperatives you follow. You have to do everything in order to get certification. The core is a framework that outlines the 10 best practice achievements. It recognizes the challenge of LBC, and it's a starting point for projects that have either barriers to LBC and Petal certification or are just not quite ready to pursue full Living Building Challenge. So PETAL certification is kind of a step up from core. It requires all 10 core imperatives. And then you have to either select water, energy, or the materials PETAL and pursue those in full again. And then the Living Building Challenge requires all 20 imperatives. So one of the things that sort of makes ILFI's program stand out is that in order to gain final certification for any of our programs, projects must show 12 consecutive months of building performance before submitting for final certification. We do have an option now, which I think is new in the last few years, for projects to receive a ready audit. This is essentially where projects teams can document all of the non-performance-based PETAL and imperative requirements. Those can be submitted to ILFI at the time that construction is complete. And we essentially verify that, yes, you've achieved all of the requirements for those imperatives, and you get a ready audit stamp. And then once you complete your performance requirements, you get your final certification. Next slide, please. So I'm going to talk now about the Living Building Challenge. The Living Building Challenge aspires to show that regenerative buildings are possible, meaning that buildings that give back more than they take, that are inherently good instead of less bad. We often use the metaphor of a flower to represent living buildings. And like I said earlier, all imperatives are required for full certification. And as I go through the various imperatives, PETALs and imperatives, I'll point out which are the core requirements. So all of those are noted with a C next to them. Next slide, please. The core framework of the challenge is its arrangement into 7 primary categories known as petals, so drawing further from the metaphor of the flower. These categories encompass the focus areas of the Living Building Challenge. For those of you that are knowledgeable about green buildings, you'll see some familiar topics such as energy and materials. But LBC claims to be as holistic as possible. So we also address things such as happiness, equity, and beauty. Next slide, please. So I'm going to walk through each of the petals, and then I have the imperatives listed, and I'll talk a little bit about the intent of each petal. And then I'm not going to go into great detail on the imperatives, but you can at least see them, and I'll touch briefly on a couple. The intent of the place petal is to realign how people understand and relate to the natural environment that sustains us, and to ensure every project is rooted in the ecology of their place, both ecologically and socially. There are 4 imperatives in the place petal: ecology of place, urban agriculture, habitat exchange, and human scaled living. And you'll see for place, the ecology of place and human scaled living are both core imperatives. Next slide. The intent of the water petal is to realign how people value water, to address the energy and chemicals involved in transporting, purifying, and pumping water, and to redefine wastewater as a precious nutrient and resource. The Living Building Challenge envisions a future whereby all developments are configured based on the carrying capacity of the site, harvesting sufficient water to meet the needs of the given population while respecting the natural hydrology of the land, the water needs of the ecosystem, the site inhabitants, and the ecosystem community. In practice, what this means is that a project must capture and treat all water used on site in a closed loop system. There are exceptions to that, recognizing that it's impossible due to codes or regulations in some areas, or that there are site-specific circumstances that just don't make sense. So there are 2 imperatives here. For core certification, you have to meet the responsible water use imperative. And then for full Living Building Challenge certification, you also have to meet net positive water requirements. Next slide. So the intent of the energy petal is to create new sources of renewable energy that allow projects to operate year-round in a resilient, pollution-free manner. In addition, the energy petal prioritizes energy efficiency as a means to reduce wasteful spending of energy, resources, and capital. There are 2 imperatives under the energy petal, and I'm not going to go into great detail because I'll talk a little more about those in our zero energy and zero carbon certification programs. But energy and carbon reduction is a core imperative, and the net positive carbon is for full certification. Next slide, please. The intent of the health and happiness petal is to create healthy spaces that allow all species to thrive by connecting people to nature and ensuring that our indoor spaces have healthy air, natural daylight, and views to the outside. We also recognize that even the best available solutions require acceptance and engagement by the occupants and project owner, particularly because we're performance-based and you have to show that you've done that performance for a year. So for buildings to be healthy over time, it takes a commitment from the project occupants and the owners. There are 3 imperatives in the health and happiness petal: healthy interior environment, access or healthy interior performance, and access to nature. And healthy interior environment is the core imperative. Next slide. So materials is often considered to be one of our most challenging petals. The intent of the materials petal is to help create a materials economy that is non-toxic, ecologically restorative, and transparent. Throughout their life cycle, building materials are responsible for many adverse environmental issues, as we all know, including personal illness, habitat and species loss, pollution, and resource depletion. The imperatives in this section aim to remove the worst known offending materials and practices and to drive business towards a truly responsible materials economy. Over the past decade, the Red List has transformed the building industry from one where ingredients were held in secret to one where transparency is becoming the new norm. This progress is evident in our 1,000+ declare labels that I reviewed earlier, which is really exciting. And we're getting more and more declare labels every day. So there are 5 imperatives under materials. Responsible materials is a core imperative. Then we have Red List, responsible sourcing, living economy sourcing, and net positive waste, which are all required whether you're pursuing the materials petal under petal certification or full living building certification. The intent of the equity petal is to elevate equity as a project goal and to transform developments to foster a just and inclusive community that enables all people to participate, prosper, and reach their full potential. It's grounded in the belief that only when a society embraces and engages all sectors of humanity, demanding equal access and fair treatment for all citizens, that we can then make the decisions that protect and restore the natural environment that sustains all of us. Just is a core component of the equity petal. Just can be used as a powerful tool to help project teams assess their own organizational equity and to identify and support other organizations that share the values of a socially just and culturally rich living future. So part of the equity requirement includes having just organizations as part of your project team. There are 2 imperatives under equity, and you'll see that they're both core requirements: universal access and inclusion. So our final petal is beauty. The intent of the beauty petal is to recognize the need for beauty and the connection to nature as a precursor to caring enough to preserve, conserve, and serve the greater good. Incorporating beauty, biophilia, and a connection to nature in the design process from the beginning is required in order to meet the beauty requirements. The intent of imperative 20 in particular, education and inspiration, is to provide educational materials about the operation and performance of the project to the occupants and the public in order to share successful solutions and ideally catalyze broader change. Both imperatives are required under this petal: beauty and biophilia, and education and inspiration. So now I'm going to talk about our zero carbon certification. There are 2 requirements for the embodied carbon certification. The embodied carbon emissions of, so there's embodied carbon and operational carbon. The embodied carbon emissions of primary materials must be reduced by 10% compared to a baseline building of equivalent size, function, and energy performance. The total embodied carbon of the project building may not exceed 500 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent per square meter. And 100% of the embodied carbon emissions and impacts associated with the construction and materials of the project must be disclosed and offset through the use of on-site carbon sequestering materials or by a one-time purchase of carbon offsets from an ILFI approved source. And for operational carbon, projects seeking zero carbon certification must meet an energy efficiency target over a 12-month period. These targets are specified based on building type, size, and location. So for new buildings, 25% reduction of energy use intensity from an equivalent new building that would comply with ASHRAE 90.1-2010. And then for existing buildings, a 30% reduction of EUI from a typical existing building of an equivalent type, size, and location. And then you can have no new sources of combustion may be added to the project. and 100% of the operational energy use associated with the project must be provided by new on or off-site renewable energy. Next slide. So our Zero Energy certification is our most straightforward certification we have. The intent of the Zero Energy program is to verify projects that demonstrate net zero energy performance based on actual, not modeled performance in order to build an advanced cohort of projects with the integrity of third-party certification. So again, this is performance-based and it must be shown over a 12-month period before you can get certification. Next slide, please. The Zero Energy requirements, like I said, are really straightforward. 100% of the building's energy needs on a net annual basis must be supplied by on-site renewable energy, and no combustion is allowed. Next slide. So at ILFI, we continue to evolve our programs to ensure they maintain the level of ambition that's in line with the urgency of climate change and the other challenges we face. In May, we published our strategic plan, which covers the next 3 years. We'll be focusing on strengthening our foundation in 4 key areas: zero carbon buildings, regenerative product procurement, social justice and diversity in the building industry, and biophilic design. We also plan to widen our circle to be more inclusive to building owners and developers, higher education, and to expand our critical buildings program. So if you're not familiar with our affordable housing initiative, it's been an excellent model of success, and we are excited to expand that to encompass what we're calling our critical buildings program. So we recognize that while housing is essential, there are other buildings that support the critical functions of communities, and these include K-12 public schools, community centers, places of worship, and other spaces. And so we'll be, over the next couple of years, we'll be expanding that program. And we hope to catalyze exponential impact by investing in timely levers for change. And these include developing model policy language, building a community of advocates, and we will also be launching our Beacon Initiative, which is a new ILFI initiative, which is inspired by our belief that living buildings can serve as catalysts for change in their communities and beyond. So this initiative will strive to leverage living buildings around the nation to increase awareness and accelerate the adoption of regenerative building policies and practices in their local region. Next slide, please. So ILFI has been a leader in envisioning, celebrating, and convening through our challenges, certifications, and our well-loved conference, Living Future. We'll continue these tactics and grow our community through recruiting, education, policy, and advocacy work. We've historically leaned more heavily on the climate and health part of our mission, and we'll be putting more emphasis and efforts toward the equity part of our mission in the coming years, specifically working at the intersection of all 3. We recognize that there are also many great organizations that are doing similar work, such as the organizations here today. And we're looking forward to collaborating more on our programs and our various work. We plan to work more deeply with organizations and people who are committed to social justice in particular in the building industry. And we'll be devoting more resources to the regenerative building movement, which organizes action on climate, health, and justice in the built environment. Next slide, please. For those of you interested in learning more about our programs, connecting with our community of members, engaging in events, and staying up to date on what's new at ILFI, I'm going to talk quickly about some of the ways that you can get involved. And I will share links with Amanda and Ante to share with the group after this presentation. So one of the best ways to become more involved with ILFI is to join as a member. ILFI's membership is made up of over 2,000 practitioners and advocates committed to creating a living future. Member benefits include access to our members-only events and networking opportunities, technical program resources, discounts on online education, and events like the Living Future Conference, and more. We have a variety of membership options available. These include corporate, nonprofit, professional, and student. So explore our website to learn more and join today. Next slide, please. Our Living Future accreditation recognizes and rewards proficiency in the most ambitious, advanced, and holistic sustainable design standards available. It covers all the work we do here at ILFI, including all of our programs, along with the regenerative design principles. You can also find our free biophilic design toolkit on our education website, along with courses that are specific to each of our programs, such as our affordable housing initiative. Living Future accreditation consists of 20 foundational credits and 16 general credits. Upon enrollment, you have about a year to complete all requirements. And for those of you who already hold an active green building credential, such as LEED AP, you may be eligible for a fast track option. So you can visit livingfuture.org/LFA. You can also find LFA information and resources on the Living Future education platform, which is education.living-future.org. Next slide, please. So if you want to learn more specifically about the Living Building Challenge, I'm going to go over a couple different courses that we have available right now. So we have our Intro to LBC 4.0, which is a really great place to start. And then for any even deeper understanding, you can check out our LBC 4.0 Imperatives in Depth, which is a 2-hour online course and goes much deeper into the program. And for greater savings, the best bang for your buck is that you bundle the two, the Intro and the Imperatives in Depth, and you can save money that way. So I encourage all of you to sign up and learn more about the Living Building Challenge. So you can check out the foundational curriculum and explore our full catalog online at education.living-future.org. You can find all the details about LFA achievement process and requirements, including renewal, in our LFA guide on the website. And if you still have questions, you can always reach out to lfa@living-future.org. And next slide. We're super excited to announce that we will be back in person after a 2-year hiatus. We invite you to join us in Washington, D.C. for our return to Living Future. Last couple of years have been virtual events due to COVID. Our theme this year is advocacy and belonging. And rumor has it that we've had a record number of session proposals submitted. So really excited to see how it turns out. I think it's going to be great. Early bird registration opens October 31st, I believe. So we hope to see some, if not all of you there. And to stay up to date, you can subscribe to our newsletter. Next slide, please. So you can sign up to get the latest resources and opportunities delivered to your inbox with our Living Future newsletter. The address is there, living-future.org/newsletter. The newsletter includes all kinds of things, ranging from, what's new with our standards and handbooks, various events that we're having, new courses that are available, as well as our blog series Trim tab, which has a lot of really great articles and blogs in there. So thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to share, and a special thanks to Amanda and Ante for the invitation. I look forward to answering your questions.
Great, thank you. I am going to stop sharing so that we can see all of your faces as we jump into all the great questions we've received. So thank you everyone for adding questions, and please feel free to keep adding along the way. So I'll start here, and Ante, if you want to jump in after with something that's standing out to you. What I'm going to start with, just because it applies across the board, is Mark is saying that they plan to build a lab, shop, and residence in Iowa. Can they get certification? So I'll open that to each of you to explain how that applies to your certification.
Sure, I'll jump in. I think our answers may be similar, but most likely, yes. It depends on the details. But we would love to connect you with a point person there in Iowa who can answer some specifics. Residents can get LEED certified commercial properties. I don't know exactly what you mean by lab and shop, but I presume we have a program, unless that is a very custom proprietary type of lab where you're not able to share much about the operational data. We most likely have a LEED program for you.
Yeah, I'll jump in as well. The same applies. You can certainly go to our website and learn more about how to register a project. We register and can certify all kinds of projects. Of course, we always encourage people to check out our standard and handbooks to make sure that they can comply with our requirements. But you can learn more, and there's no red flags initially that would make me think that there would be a reason for you not to be able to certify.
Yeah, and I think LEED or ILFI would be a better fit for that. We're specifically a residential program in Oregon.
Thank you. Jumping down through our list, we had a question from Kathleen, which was a really great question by that, noting that recertification is required for LEED 0 every 3 years. Why is recertification required for LEED 0, but not for LEED? This one's for Jennifer.
And that mostly has to do with the age of the program. We didn't put recertification in as a requirement 20 something years ago when we got started. And we're not going to, we haven't grandfathered in old LEED certifications, but we're not going to go taking away plaques. So from this point forward, we are integrating recertification requirements. So right now, LEED 0 has a 3-year requirement for recertification. LEED O&M has a 5-year, and we strongly encourage all LEED projects to recertify. As I think I'm preaching to the choir here, all buildings change the moment they are occupied. So any new construction certification, no matter if you get one of everything in this presentation, the day the building is occupied, how it is used, operated, maintained starts changing. So that new construction certification is not a permanent certification. And we want you to track how you are consuming your utilities, how you're operating, how you're using that facility, and recertify on a regular basis. So the recertification requirement is being layered in as each program update is coming out, but it mostly has to do with that age of LEED 0, and it only came out 4 years ago, so we were able to put some more strict requirements on not using the LEED 0 name after a certain time frame.
Great, thank you. And this question for Rebecca, which you have answered in the chat, but I'm just going to ask out loud for so that everyone can hear your response. Do you provide all green consulting services for projects, or do project teams typically hire green building consultants? And also, how are your consulting and certification services paid for?
Yeah, so thank you. So our consulting is all in-house. We've got a handful of folks on the team that will work specifically with you. Those are our green building consultants. However, we will bring in HVAC specialists, solar specialists. We're more of kind of jack of all trades and making sure that we're having the proper conversation with the proper people in the room to meet your goals. So we'll do all that in-house, and that consulting fee is included in the certification. So the single family program has a set price depending on what other kind of peripheral services you bring in. The multifamily pricing is a little bit more complicated depending on how big the project is, but no, that would be included in the proposal for the certification. Did I answer that question?
You did. Thanks, Rebecca. Perfect. I am going to ask, so Aubrey, a question for you. Are there training or educational resources that are specific to CORE?
So the answer to that is yes. We do have a course that is one course specific to CORE, but that said, all of our programs kind of nest into each other. So a lot of the requirements, as you saw in that illustration where it's kind of CORE and then PEDAL and then Living Building Challenge, the requirements aren't different for any of those. It's just that you're taking away some imperatives to get to CORE, or you're adding imperatives to get to LBC. The only difference with that is that ZE and ZC have slightly different requirements. That's something that we're working to fix over the coming year, is to align them so that they all really do nest perfectly with each other. So that said, you can take a course that's just specific to CORE, but also any course that you take related to Living Building Challenge will help fill in additional details that maybe won't be covered fully in the CORE course.
Awesome, thank you. So I will jump to another question. And Rebecca, it was asked specifically of you, but I would be interested to just open it up to the group. Mark asks, they'd like to discuss building integrated thin film on steel or anodized aluminum solar PV, which may reach 42% efficiency. And their question is, how could that be evaluated? So a material specific question here.
Yeah, so like all of our programs, however you can, whatever is available out there to meet the intent of any one of these measures. I'm not personally familiar with that approach, but happy to discuss it. And if it meets the intent of our solar measure, then absolutely. But we would have to review that with the contractor to make sure that it indeed meets the goals of the project.
I will echo Rebecca in that, I don't know specifically about that material or technology, but with all of our programs, it is really, because it's performance-based, we typically, and there are nuances to this, but we don't care how you get there, as long as you meet the intent of all of our imperatives. And because of performance-based, if you're performing at the end of the day, that's what we care about. Granted, like I said, there are a lot of nuances to that answer, but you would want to look more deeply into our different imperative requirements to make sure that you are aligned.
Yeah, and I would have pretty much the same answer. It's just, I don't know much about that specific material, but given if it has the same performance as the intended credit, then the documentation to show that performance is all that's required. If it doesn't fit neatly into a credit category within LEED, because it's kind of a material / photovoltaic hybrid or whatever it may be, we do have an innovation credit, series of innovation credits where you can try to just justify why it is above and beyond or just different enough from one of the existing credits and still get points for your innovative uses.
Right, thank you all. And Mark also notes that it's their technology and can be used as the building sheathing. So yeah, sounds like, Mark, you may want to connect with all the folks on the screen here to talk through that. And I do want to highlight here something also that Kathleen noted of just really how these various systems can really support each other. And so Kathleen's example was that one of the projects Jennifer showed was NRDC San Francisco office, which achieved both LEED Commercial Interiors Platinum and also Living Building Challenge Materials Petal. And so I think you'll find that kind of across the board with these programs, that they can all be supportive of each other. And I think we also have a recent example of that in Portland with Sarah Architect's new office, where I believe they pursued 5 or 6 certifications. So it's very possible that multiples of these make sense across different project types. So I'm just going to give us a minute for some additional questions if they pop in. So please feel free to add those if you have any others that are standing out to you. But while we're waiting on that, I just also want to note that you can hear more about it in the part 1 webinar recording if you didn't have a chance to listen to that, but where we talk about just kind of how these certifications are incorporated into the SB4A framework. There are a series of tiers that kind of step up with these certifications, as well as with incentives associated with those. And so also, in addition to that, the framework itself and those tiers are really the work of a number of sustainability and equity experts and advocates that are based in Portland. And so we know putting out a program like this, that different communities are going to have different needs. And so just want to again emphasize that that's a framework to build from, and also to adapt to your local needs for all the government folks that are on the call, as well as any other folks who are just really interested in seeing something like this available for you and for your projects or for your clients, and want to advocate for that locally. Just want to make that clear that there is room for each jurisdiction to kind of build from this and make it work for their local needs. Ante, did you see any other questions that came in while I was talking there that you want to bring up?
No, I think some follow-up items about the advanced solar tech, but I think all these rating systems do have processes for innovative technologies. I know I can personally say, like, having worked with LEED and Living Building Challenge, if you have an idea and you want feedback, whether through the dialogue for Living Building Challenge or through LEED Coach for LEED, there's a lot of ways to get innovative strategies deployed.
And we have some innovative measures as well.
Awesome. Thank you all very much for presenting on your programs. I'm familiar with them all and also learned a lot in addition to what I already knew. So really appreciate all of you taking the time to share with us today and answer the questions. And just a note for folks on the call, we will follow up with an email that includes the links, as Aubrey mentioned, so we'll have links from everyone on the screen, as well as the recording. And please feel free, you'll be able to find folks' email addresses there, but if for any reason that's you're not able to kind of jump back to that part of the recording and find that, you can always reach out to Ante and I as well, and we'll get you connected. And I do want to share my screen just one more time. Just to also mention that we do have one more webinar. Part 4 is in 2 weeks, October 31st, also at noon. And in this webinar, we will actually hear from some of the case studies that were featured in the report and framework. And so we'll get to hear about projects that have pursued and completed all of the certifications that you learned about today. And so we're really excited to share that with everyone in order to show that these, it's possible in the market today to achieve all of these really high level performing certifications, and that the role of SB4A is to help folks keep progressing, as well as help more folks get into these higher levels of performance in their projects. And also, I dropped the link in the chat earlier, but you can also start to find recordings that are available on DEQ's SB4A webpage. And I will include that link in the follow-up email as well. And we will continue to post the recordings there as we host all of these. And so with that, I'm gonna stop sharing again and just say a huge thank you to everyone who's on the call, and also a huge thank you to Jennifer and Rebecca and Aubrey. Really appreciate all of you coming on today and sharing your programs. We're so excited to have you here today and as a part of the SB4A framework.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes, thank you, everyone.